one particular flat, a beautiful house, and I absolutely love all my flatmates, but one of them, bless her, she wanted to run a dog sitting business, and so she
in the flat.
And so, we all said yes. She asked us, she gave us
I'm
a
not
chance
sure
to
I would
say no.
say yes.
I wouldn't say
I reckon
what?
I'd say
Totally.
no. I love dogs.
It obviously then meant that sometimes we would have up to five dogs maybe in the house, and this landlord started stalking the house and would...
Rightfully so.
Well,
that's not
yeah.
stalking. It's
I mean,
looking at my investment.
So owning your own home definitely is
What did you
quite
do
relaxing.
with the dogs? You just drop them off at the SPCA and then pick them up when the owners wanted them? Or?
She didn't steal the dogs.
No, I mean
It's a daily rent. Well,
it's a daily. I mean, it was like one of those kennels. You said like 5 weeks.
No.
Yeah.
No.
How many dogs were at the house every day?
Sometimes one, sometimes five, but they were amazing. I
can imagine if I was a landlord being like, hell no, you can't do that.
Welcome to Checks and Balances. I'm Michael Vincent. This is James Blair. And today we have Jess from the Wealth Team. And we're going to talk about how this couple bought a house in 4 weeks.
Jess, welcome to the episode. Congratulations for buying a house.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on being from the Wealth Team.
Yeah, well, great place to be.
Which is the higher
more
order,
exciting
the bigger achievement.
Oh, that's the house wouldn't be without the Wealth Team.
Yeah.
So
there we go.
Wealth Team.
So tell us, you bought a house in 4 weeks. Maybe start by, what did you buy?
What?
Yeah.
A 2-bedroom townhouse in Otahu, or Seaview Peninsula, as it does also get called.
I know the people who name that peninsula.
Yeah, we roll with
bit
that.
of marketing genius there. Can you view the sea from the house?
Not quite, unfortunately. It's not far though. You can walk to it.
Can you smell it?
No.
When you're close to the beach, you can smell the beach.
Yeah,
James
not
Blair,
quite
fresh
that
off the
close.
mean streets of Thailand, wants to talk about smelling the beach.
Am I looking tan? You haven't
No,
commented
looking a
on my
little
tan
bit.
yet.
He's looking a little bit tan.
Thank you. Yeah, and didn't get burnt. Didn't get Cooper burnt, which is very important as
Nice.
well.
Yeah.
So Jess, I want to backtrack. So congratulations on buying a home. You've just moved into it. Is it everything you thought it would be? All of that debt when you wake up in the morning? Do you get up 15 minutes earlier?
Oh, not quite. I mean, I guess there's definitely a bit more. You feel a lot more responsibility to stick to a bit of a structure and a budget now that you know that mortgage payment's going to be coming out. But yeah, we love it. It's nice. It's exactly what we wanted for that stage of life that we're at. So yeah,
Nice.
Really happy.
So give us the backstory of purchasing the house. Maybe a good place to start would be, did you always think you were going to buy a house?
Yes. So I think my parents had really drilled that into me. They'd always had houses and they'd bought quite young and really prioritized that for themselves. So it was always part of the plan. I instead decided to move over to London for 8 years.
Hey,
so
nice. Right. This is the next 15 minutes is
Keep
just
it
London
moving,
chat.
keep it moving. For those that don't know, when I sit in a meeting with Mike, he goes, I spent some time in London, and the person goes, me too, and then we lose half an hour. So anyway,
we don't lose half.
anyway,
We
Jess,
gain half
if
an
we
hour.
can jump the London chat, that would be great.
No. So you lived away. How long were you in London for?
Oh,
nearly 8 years. So it was quite a long week. We lived our best life for maybe a touch too long, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun, obviously.
It's
we loved it.
it's always better to live too much of your best life than not enough. Mike has gone well past his best life and is still running hard.
35 years. Yeah.
Still going. Yeah, no. So we lived over there and we were flatting obviously the whole time, big groups of people. It's almost, I wouldn't say impossible to live as a couple over there renting, but we just wouldn't have had the lovely houses that we had. It would have been, a lot less travel that we could have done because our budget would have been too tight. So,
Just on that point out of interest, like just comparing renting in London versus like renting in Auckland.
Yeah.
Say you can buy a rental in Auckland for a rental place in Auckland for like maybe $700 a week, you and your partner. What would the equivalent be in the, like, is that even possible in the UK?
No, well, not in UK,
In London,
yes, but
sorry?
London certainly not. So we went from we were paying $600 a week in rent over here for a 2-bedroom apartment. Like this was overlooking the water, absolutely lovely, like brand new. And in London, we were paying the same for 1 bedroom in a 4-bedroom house with 7 other people. To put that in
Good times
perspective.
though, eh?
So
Good
it was so
times.
much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to put in perspective.
It gets very old though.
Yeah. And we're in our 30s now. So we've been together for 12 years and we'd never lived just the two of us until we moved home. And for that reason, so It's pretty wild.
Are you regretting that bit now, just living with each other?
Yeah.
Or like,
I know, we did think we got married kind of without living together, just the two of us. So we thought, oh, this might be a problem, but no, it was great.
And then you've sent him off to police training for 5 months, so you don't have to worry for a bit longer.
Yeah. Nah, it's all good.
So you spent some time so you always thought you were going to buy a house, lived your best life in London. You're like, I guess need to be adult, come back, add to the New Zealand economy, help grow New Zealand to be the great country it can be. You came back. Were you like, once you obviously you found Lighthouse, you're like, this is where I want to be. Were you like immediately, I think I'm going to buy a house in 4 weeks, or was that all a big surprise?
We knew coming back that was our number one goal. We got married last year in June, so that was a huge, obviously a big tick off the list. It's a really big financial commitment as well, a wedding. So we'd sort of had some forced savings through COVID, managed to pay for that. We had some help from our parents with that too, which has actually then led to us being able to buy the house because we had some left over.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, when we came home, we knew, okay, house is the next big thing. That's what we're going to work towards. Honestly thought it was probably 2 years away, like maybe even longer.
Why did you think it was 2 years away?
Well, I didn't realize how much of a deposit we actually had. If you think about adding up your Kiwi Savers, the cash that you had, I just couldn't believe how doable it was. I came in working here and just overhearing conversations around the office about how important, getting on the property ladder is ASAP and kind of where the market's at the moment for first home buyers. It was kind of a perfect time for us to jump in. And then, had a chat to a couple of the girls at lunch and sort of thought, is this something that you think I could do? And they were like, totally, let's have a proper conversation. And I think literally 2 weeks later, we had signed a sale and purchase agreement after that first conversation.
And when you were talking to them, when you were kind of saying, should I do this? Can I do this? How much deposit did you actually have percentage-wise to start with?
It would have only been, the house is worth about 700 and we had 70K.
So about 10%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
So I was thinking I would have to aim for the 20%.
Yeah.
That's why we thought it's going to be a few more years, but actually it was totally doable. And we also qualified for the first home grant as well for being part of KiwiSaver for that full length of time. We bought a new build, so it was 10 grand each, which was also a huge help. So, it's been a real combination of things.
Yeah, free 20K never goes amiss.
So you mentioned the first home buyers grant, Jess. I don't want to jump over that because a lot of people go free money from the government. I've never heard of that. They just take it all away from me. So can you talk a little bit about the first home grant and how it worked for you?
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true, doesn't it, when you're first kind of sitting down talking about buying a house. But because we have been KiwiSaver members for a long time, we started working in high school, we joined up straight away. We've been contributing for all, most of that time. Obviously, we're now in our 30s. So to qualify, you need to be contributing for at least 3 years. If you're buying a new build like we did, for each year you contribute up to 5 years, you get 2 grand per year. So we got the 10 each because we've been contributing for at least 5 years. So it worked really well for us.
Nice. And Mike, the other big piece is when people are moving back from the UK, they might think, oh, my salary is higher than the threshold.
Yeah.
But there's a little window, isn't there?
Let's say, you're earning the big bucks, the big pounds, you move back, you're on $800,000 a year and you're thinking, damn, I don't qualify for this. Wow. It's a rolling 12-month average of the last 12 months, which means that if you've only worked for a week, hey, you probably qualify for the first home grant.
So, an extra $20,000 that you didn't know you would get, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, that's massive. And that was what scraped us in there, to be honest. It was kind of once you take all those things in, both your joint Kiwi Savers together, the cash savings that we had, and that first home grant was what formed our deposit in the end.
All right. So you were talking to the girls at work. You're thinking, okay, I think we've got enough together. Everyone's saying, let's do this. Talk me through the process of what happened next. So how do you actually get the pre-approval and then go through the buying process? How did you find all of that? Because you've been living overseas for quite some time. So, it's probably a little bit new.
And the other big piece as well, right? You've gone from thinking, like, I'm years away from buying a house to I can go and do something. And when somebody says you can go and do something, you're like, oh, so what do I do now?
Totally. And we were completely out of the loop, had no idea what this process looked like at all. We'd had nothing to do with it before. So, after that initial conversation with Laura, she basically gave me the next steps of who to speak to. We knew that we wanted to buy a new build for all those benefits we were going to get. And honestly, I think being so clueless, having a team around you that knew what to do was the key. So we're just, we needed hand holding through
Yeah.
everything, and that's what everybody did. So Laura would tell me, okay, this is the next step, go speak to these people. So Laura and I had run through the numbers. She'd told me roughly what we could afford to look for. So I think that was a really important first step, just knowing what your budget actually is.
Yeah.
Change
So-
the trade me
Yeah.
barriers. Yeah.
Yep.
It really focuses the search when someone gives you a number.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah, so we were then given a list of developers to kind of go and speak to and have a look at their show homes, which was a really good first place to start. We, that weekend went looking at a couple around Auckland and very quickly decided that Titus was what we wanted, just based on how the show home looked, Google reviews, things like that.
Yeah.
And following that, we then were given a sale and purchase agreement pretty quickly. We were introduced to Hague Lion, and Bella at Hague Lion was our lawyer, who was amazing. She was so helpful through the whole process and basically told us what to look out for, what to do next. She went through that sale and purchase agreement and told us things that she would recommend changing or pushing back on. So that was obviously also really helpful and just felt completely supported and guided through everything.
Yeah, one of the things I'm interested to touch on is the part with a new build when somebody says, hey, sign the contract, and you can just cancel it whenever you want.
Yeah.
I always
it
think
sounds
that's
so like
don't worry about it. Just sign the contract.
Yeah, just sign a contract for $750,000. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
What did
Yeah.
you think when you got told that?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound really bizarre, especially when it's your first experience of buying a house. But I think I just trusted Hague Lion. I know that they're really, really good at what they do. And Bella explained everything to us in detail. So we felt comfortable, even though it sounds really bizarre.
So you
people
didn't
really go one or two ways with that. You get some people are like, I don't want to sign anything. And then other people come back to you on Monday and they're like, I put 4 houses under contract. I'm like, wow. So James, before we continue, I have got a special announcement.
Have you started sticking to your budget?
Absolutely not.
You finally made it as an after-hours DJ.
I wish. Mate, the thing is, we have got a brand new podcast partner, Partners Life.
You mean the award-winning insurance provider with over 300,000 Kiwis insured?
Yep, they're also a New Zealand operated company and they are passionate about increasing financial literacy amongst Kiwis.
Sounds like a great match. Where can I learn more about them?
Check out their website in our show notes below.
Really thought DJ Magic Mike was going to be a global sensation for a second. And Mike, so Jess is talking about Bella from Hague Lion and the experience she had on the solicitor's perspective.
Yeah.
What's a lot of people just go, oh, went and saw my mum and dad's solicitor, but there's a big difference between a property solicitor and mum and dad's solicitor who only does wills.
Yeah, it's the same as anything, right? A specialist is always going to be better in that field. And I'm not saying that generalist lawyers are bad or they do a bad job. However, a lot of the time they will be pushing back on things specifically with new build contracts where usually you wouldn't be pushing back. For example, we've had situations where the slabs have been poured, the walls are up, we're basically closing the house in, that's the stage of the build we're at. And the solicitor is pushing back on the size of the house and saying that, they need a guarantee around the square meterage of the house. And the developer's going, mate, I can't change this thing now. This thing is set in stone, literally. Yeah. So, sometimes they can appear to be a little bit more expensive up front because they may charge slightly more per an hourly rate. However, they'll probably spend less time going through the contract because they'll be very familiar with these contracts and it's not the first time they've read something.
That was definitely our experience as well with Hague Lion. It felt like they knew the process. They were super specialist in that area and walked us through every single thing that we needed to know. So it was really helpful.
Having a solicitor who can explain a legal contract in plain English for customers is absolutely amazing. It just gives people such reassurance that they're in the right place doing the right thing.
The other one I've noticed is being familiar with new builds.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll run into lawyers that going, wait, this thing might not be finished for up to 2 years. Like, why the hell would you sign that? Somebody who knows the contracts and knows the new build process is important.
Yeah.
So Jess, you've got a pre-approval from Laura. You've spoken to a lawyer. You've found a house. That all has gone fine. What happens next?
We've signed the sale and purchase agreement, and then it was kind of strange because then we wait. And, I was kind of asking everybody, asking Bella, asking Laura, what do I need to do now? Is there anything? And they're like, no, just wait. And so that was kind of a strange period for us because you kind of just sat on your hands and we would do little drive-bys of the development site every 3 days.
And how long did you wait for between, finalizing everything on the contract side and getting the keys to the house?
It wasn't long actually, to be fair. So started at Lighthouse mid-October. We'd signed that sale and purchase basically end of October, beginning of November. And then we got the keys mid-March. So
Yeah,
it was a
pretty
pretty quick turnaround overall. Which was great.
I mean, you think about some of the other stories where we've spoken to clients and it's been 2 years, 3
Plus,
years.
yeah.
They've settled the property and it's worth like $300,000-$400,000 less than they bought it for.
Yeah.
There's some horror stories, particularly in some parts outside of Auckland that we've seen. One is, I know you've run into instances with particular developers where banks have turned around and gone, you can't get the lending.
Yes.
So having that conversation with the broker about what you're gonna, having that due diligence period is really important, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. Yes, absolutely. There is a specific developer out there who banks want nothing to do with, so they won't fund them. The second thing is like outside of Googling, having a look at the show homes and doing the due diligence and the contract. It's about having the right people around you and just Googling the developer. Do they have a website? Can I see who they are? What is their track record? Do they have a brand in the market? A developer that has a brand in the market and it's a good brand is going to want to protect that developer. And look, building properties on scale to a time frame is a really tough thing to do, right? Especially over the last few years with COVID, supply issues, the housing market coming down a bit. So no brand is going to be perfect. However, it is very obvious when you talk to people who know what's happening in the building industry and when you Google online, the good developers from the bad developers.
Yeah, because the other piece in terms of the property not being up to standard, it's very easy just for you to mention a name and us being like, do not go anywhere near them. But if you're just somebody who, like, you've come across a Facebook ad or something and you've gone, I'll buy
a house of 5%. Whoa, how easy is that?
Yeah.
And how would you know unless you ask an expert, right? That's why it was important for us to have that ecosystem around us, which we did.
Yep.
Being from Lighthouse to Hague Lion, you enter that due diligence period and you're like, what am I due diligencing? I don't know. Like,
what
I've got
diligence
no idea.
is due?
Yeah. So that was really helpful, just being told all of those things you've said, look at this, and that was really helpful.
And did it come into your mind at all, or did it slow you down thinking about, mortgage rates are at 7 and a bit %. Your rent might be lower than what your mortgage repayments are. Because it's a big conversation I'm hearing at the moment is I'm going to wait for interest rates to go down before I buy a house.
Yeah, I think the things that I'm learning in my role at Lighthouse have really helped in that respect. So understanding that it's not going to last forever. It's going to be a period of time that we get through. Things might be tough for now, but it's better than waiting because as interest rates come down, house prices will go up and we're not going to be able to outpace that in it with our savings for a deposit, so it's better actually to suffer in the short term and just get in there basically.
To suffer in the short term.
Don't worry, Jess, we're all suffering at the moment. And it also makes me feel better for you also to say that it won't last forever. Sometimes I lay awake at night looking up at the ceiling going, will 7% interest rates last forever? So it's good for you to tell me that it won't last forever. I appreciate it.
Certainly hope not.
And what about, I want to jump back a little bit between renting and owning a home. So I hear you've got a good horror story around renting maybe to touch on, but then also a little bit around how do you feel between, less about the money and more about owning a home opposed to renting without, how do you feel about owning a home?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels, and this is why we wanted to buy, it's given us that stability. I think with all our years of experience renting, we would move almost every year for one reason or another. There would always be something, either the landlord wanted to renovate or they wanted to move back in. I'm always the lead tenant often because...
What, a flat with 14 people in London?
Because, I run the bank account and I know what to look for and all that sort of thing. And I'd be setting up these flats of sometimes 9 people. So, it's a lot of pressure when you've got people living with you and you're kind of in charge of that stuff. But one particular flat, it was a beautiful house and I absolutely love all my flatmates, but one of them, bless her, she wanted to run a dog sitting business, and so she
in the
flat. And so we all said yes. She asked us. She gave us
I'm
a
not
chance
sure
to
I
say
would
no.
say yes.
I wouldn't say.
I reckon I'd say no. I love dogs. Yeah. It's our dream to open a doggy daycare after Lighthouse.
Doggy daycare.
But I think I'd say no.
We could do like a doggy TV podcast. Anyway, I'm getting distracted.
It was amazing though. She asked us. We all said yes.
Hugs and Dalmatians.
But it obviously then meant that sometimes we would have 5 up to 5 dogs maybe in the house, and this landlord started stalking the house and would
rightfully so.
Well,
that's not
yeah.
stalking. It's
I mean,
looking at my investment.
But then I'm the one that's threatened with legal action and all this stuff. So because I'm the lead tenant, right? So it's stressful and it's unsettling. And every time, you know, your lease comes up, it's kind of, are we going to be kicked out? Is our rent going to go up? So I think I'd had enough of that, and I'd had enough of answering to people. I'd had enough of being responsible for people. So owning your own home definitely is
What did you
quite
do
relaxing.
with the dogs? You just drop them off at the SPCA and then pick them up when the owners wanted them? Or?
She didn't steal the dogs.
No, I mean
It's a daily rent. Well, I should
it's
say,
a daily. I mean,
yeah.
like, well, it was like a one of those kennels. You
I
said like
assume-
5 weeks.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no.
How many dogs were at the house every day?
Sometimes 1, sometimes 5, but they were amazing. Like
I
shout
can
out to
imagine. I
The
can imagine
dog's
if I was a
amazing. The
landlord.
situation not amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine if I was a landlord being like, "Hell no, you can't do that."
I mean, yeah, on the surface it sounds pretty extreme, but they were always sweet as. It was just, not what we should have been
Sounds
doing.
hairy.
Yeah. I have someone close in my life who has just taken over being the lead tenant, and he said to his girlfriend, "Let's be the lead tenant together." And she's like, "Nah, I don't want like the responsibility. You can just like deal with it all, have your name assigned to everything." Anyway, led to their first big fight. So important that were you and your partner the lead tenant together?
There would normally be 4 of us, sort of.
Oh, you would like kind of drag everybody in.
I would try. I'd do my best
Yep.
and just kind of rope people in, but realistically, I was the one speaking.
with a company structure.
Yeah.
To,
An LLC.
Yeah. Speaking of your husband, I think that's a really important point to touch on as well. So you're at Lighthouse drinking this Kool-Aid around property, and you're coming home and going like, "Look, we're going to buy a property. This is what's possible." How did you go? Because that's very common in a relationship, right? One person's very much like, "We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this." The other person's just going along for the ride. How was he through this process?
Yeah, I remember everybody kind of asking me that as we were going through, because I was one meeting with Laura and speaking with you, and everyone's going, "What about your husband? Like, is he on board with this? Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally. We've been together for a really long time, and we're quite lucky that we are very much on the same page with our goals, and we talk about that stuff. We do discuss those things. It's not like we just wake up and agree on it. You know, we talk about where we're heading next, what we want to achieve." And so I just knew that everything that I was saying and doing in these meetings, he would totally be on board with. So I think that's an important thing as well for people kind of going through the process, is actually have a conversation with your partner about where you're heading, because we do that. So
That sounds lovely, Jess.
it's true.
So Jess, if you could do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
I'm tempted to say no, because we had such a good experience. I don't think there was really anything, it's all fallen into place. There was nothing that went majorly wrong. But something that I have thought about was
ditching Laura and getting Mike as a broker. Yeah, I knew you were going to say it. You didn't want to hurt Laura's feelings. That's okay.
Jess, why you would go away from Laura? Laura's the number 1 mortgage broker at Lighthouse. Everybody else is a far second and third. So I definitely wouldn't make any changes there. Any other changes?
Keep that locked in. I have thought about whether we should have pushed back our time in London by a couple of years and bought a house before we left. But I also don't think that our cash flow would have allowed it, especially the first sort of half of our time there, because you're getting your income up. It's a bit of a struggle. You're obviously wanting to travel and do all these things. So we just wouldn't have had the same experiences that we did. But obviously we would have had a house, a property ticking away in the background. So it was something.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if first home grants were in place. I don't think they were. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, So anyway, it's all worked out.
Yeah. And what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking, can I buy? They're in a similar situation. What advice would you have for them?
Just surround yourself with experts, people that do this day in, day out. It's your first time seeing any of these things, so you want those experts around you, definitely. Do that due diligence on your developers, because it's going to be a really important thing. It could bite you in the butt later on. And I think I had some good advice from other people at Lighthouse just to check. This seems like a really minor thing, but going through things in detail. Is the house going to come with blinds? Does it have a splashback? Does it have, there's really small things that you think, oh, all houses come with that, but actually they don't. So
the blinds and the curtains are...
and they're expensive.
Yeah.
Like they can cost a lot of money. So our house came with blinds, which is great.
Yeah. Well, this podcasts probably sound somewhat of a promo for like the process of buying a house and those sort of things. But it was really just going like, well done, you, like, you know, we can facilitate these kinds of transactions. We know the people that we can get you in front of. But the big thing is, a lot of the time we go and do this, but the person, it's pulling the trigger, it's getting on with it. So awesome work.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to Partners Life for sponsoring the episode. Please make sure to subscribe, review, give us a like, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.